Hello, my name is Daniel Howe, and today I'll be presenting on selecting the right accounting firm. One of the most important decisions that a young accountant can make is where and what practice that they start their career. There's many different size firms and different types of practices, so finding the right one is important for long-term success in their career. So to start, we'll just start with a bit introduction. So today we're going to be looking at the differences in firm size as well as pros and cons of each. We're going to compare and contrast the audit and tax practices, and then look into some work style consideration, learning and development opportunities, and long-term goals that could fit in with each of the different firm size and practices, with the overall goal to find the best fit for your work style and long-term goals. So to start, we're just going to do a brief overview of the types of firms that people in the accounting world. So typical small firms are more local and regional, with local or regional clients. Think small businesses, maybe high net worth individuals in a small local area. They tend to have fewer employees and not as far of a reach. Mid-sized firms, though, might have national or regional reach. They have moderate size and resources, but nothing like the big four. Large firms such as Deloitte, PwC, EY, and KPMG. These firms have global presence and global clients and tend to work on large Fortune 500 companies. So to start, we're going to look at the small firms, just a brief overview and some pros and cons. So like I said before, the small firms tend to be maybe one-off firms in towns or cities. They tend to have maybe one partner group and have less big clients and as well as some less employees. So some of the pros of these firms are they have stronger relations with the clients because again, it's those local community clients that they tend to have. They tend to have exposures to many more areas of accounting. They're more seen as jack of all trades employees instead of more specialized like accountants get in the bigger firms. This is just due to the fact that instead of maybe having 10 people per team for a business, maybe there's one or two people per team, so then they tend to do more of the work themselves. Um, and then this is, like I said before, there's usually one office slash partner group, so you tend to be closer to coworkers and tend to have that family environment, which people seem to enjoy. Some cons of this, though, are there fewer specialization opportunities. Again, you tend to be more of a jack of all trades instead of becoming really proficient in certain areas. They have smaller and less complex clients. Again, with the smaller size, the stuff is not as complex, which doesn't let you to learn as much. You have lower salary and overall compensation, and then there's fewer exit opportunities post your start at these companies. So now we're going to look at some mid-sized firms and their pros and cons. So the pros are they have a mix of large and small clients. So like the small firms, they will also have like the small local clients, but at the same time, they could have some pretty big companies as well that maybe aren't on the Fortune 500 scale or the billion-dollar scale, but still are relatively big and have big reach in areas. They tend to have better compensation than small firms, while still having that work-life balance. Of the smaller firms as well. And then there's also now more opportunities to specialize as companies grow, the teams that work on their taxes and audits grow, and then which allows you to become more specialized in certain areas. The cons are you still have less global recognition and fewer high-profile clients, and the more high-profile clients you have, the higher the compensation is, and so on. You still have a very demanding busy season, just like the larger firms, but you do not have as many exit opportunities because you don't have the namesake of some of the big companies like yeah. So then we have the large firms. These are the big four. So the pros of these are these highest prestige firms. Once you have Deloitte, EY, PwC, or KPMG on your resume, you pretty much have any exit opportunity that you'd like. They have super strong training programs. And they get to work with the global Fortune 500 companies on a daily basis. For example, a Pittsburgh office might end up working on PNC Bank or the Pirates or the Steelers and other big companies like that. Some of the cons, though, is there is long hours. It is not uncommon for newer and younger associates to work 70 to 80 hours a week during busy season. There's high stress and high expectations. You're doing the work for some of the biggest clients, and they expect you to be up for that task. It's very competitive as well, and it's very hard to break in. It's if you don't get your internship during your sophomore or junior year of college, you're pretty much not going to get a very good offer there at the same time. But once you're in, and you have all of the great exit opportunities and training and so on that that these firms offer. So now we're going to look at audit versus tax. So although these are the two main focuses that accounting firms deal with today on the day to day. So the audit size Their main goal is to review financial statements of these big companies. They ensure accuracy and compliance, go through checklists of controls, um, and submit the quarterly, yearly, and semi-yearly audits to the SEC, as well as when needed for buyouts and such. Um, they have much more client interaction and teamwork, which comes along with working at the client sites, which involves travel as well. So they're very more social and more team oriented. As for tax, they prepare and plan taxes for the year. They're more focused on tax law and regulation, as well as doing consulting and tax planning throughout the year. And they are seen as more independent in your work. So now we're going to look at some work style considerations. So this is more based on what practice you work in. So auditors are pretty much all team-based and collaborative. There's very few times where an audit was just done by one person. Many times it can be whole groups of teams from partners all the way down to the lower associates. They have frequent client interaction and client sites, like I said before. It's very common for auditors to travel to do inventory counts, to work on client sites, to check on controls of factories, et cetera, et cetera. And they are very fast-paced and deadline-driven throughout the year. Tax, on the other hand, is much more independent and detail-oriented. It's very common for you to be working on the tax return just by yourself and then get it checked by other people. They have less client interaction, although they will always be the client interaction working in the service firms. But they're again, they're more focused on accuracy, and they have a more intense busy season because most of their deadlines fall on either March, April, or May 15th, depending on what practice you work in. So they tend to have more of the time busy in that time of year, where auditors can be more busy through periodically around the year. Choosing between them really comes down to your preference. If you're more of an independent person, if you're more teamwork, oh, and just if you like audit or tax better. But both have great career growth opportunities, and they both have great exit opportunities as well. So now we're going to look at some of the learning and development opportunities. So promotion deadlines or promotion timelines vary by firm size, but the large firms such as the Big Four pretty much have structured yearly promotions where you start as a junior associate, work your way up to a senior associate, then you become after 4 or 5 years, and then you become a manager, and then you can move yourself up to be a senior manager before you get to that managing director slash partner track as your career goes on. Um, these firms tend to have a move up or leave system, so it's not uncommon that if you were an associate and you don't want to make that jump to be a manager, you probably won't be sticking around in the firm much longer. Now for the small and mid-sized firms, there's a way more flexible career path. There might be less and slash slower promotions, but at the same time, you gain a lot more experience before you have these promotions as well. So now we're going to look at aligning your long-term goals. So basically, what do you want your life to look like in 5, 10, 15 years is a great way to decide what firm and what practice you go into. So match the firm practice that fits your goals and how you see yourself. So smaller firms, for example, they have stability over long term. You have good work-life balance. You'll make good amount of money, good compensation once you get your CPA, and you know it's always way more stable. Easier weeks, less busy seasons, that kind of stuff. The mid-sized firms have a balance of growth and flexibility with the opportunities to advance. So you still have the growth and the more things that you get from the small firms, but at the same time, you have great opportunities to advance your career up to like the partner track or find yourself with exit opportunities. Whereas the large firms, it's fast career growth with strong exits, but with trade-off of your time. It's very common again for busy seasons for auditors and tax accountants to work 60, 70, 80 hours a week. But with that, you learn a lot and you get with that comes the compensation and the prestige of working with the big firms, which then could help you with your exit opportunities after you put your time in at these firms. So to conclude slash recap, there's no one size fit all firms. Every firm works better for someone, and every is better or worse for someone than another one. Each pass offers different experience and opportunities. Your decision should reflect your preferred work style. If you want to be a team player, be more independent. Your career goals and ambitions. Do you want to stay with the firms forever? Do you want to jump to the industry or other roles? Your desired work-life balance. Are you okay with working 80 hours a week if that means you make more money, or do you see that time with your family or your friends outside of work as more important? And your willingness to handle pressure and workload at the bigger firms versus on the smaller firms where maybe you're not as important and as big as the work. But the most important things is to choose the path that fits you. All accounting jobs are good jobs, and in the end of the day, it's what works best for you in your career that's best. Thank you for your time.